Alright guys,
We're back.
welcome back.
We're back together for the first time in a while, just the two of us.
It's been a minute.
There's Brandon, by the way, if anyone's watching on YouTube. He's right in there from the start.
Big Brandon.
Big Brandon. Episode 21. Of course it is, episode 21. Right on time, actually, I think.
Yep.
We were born on the 21st. I think we were going through a bit of a rebirth at the moment. So
It's the 20th. It's the 20th.
We're a day away from it being the 21st of April as well. But this won't come out for a couple of weeks yet. We have the one with Robbie that we just did as well in between. So today has been an interesting day, actually. We were meant to do a podcast with another guest, which will maybe be our next guest, maybe not, maybe the one after that. But thanks to time zones, we got things a little bit
screw with.
Yeah, we got things a little bit mixed up, so it is what it is. It was meant to be. What will be, will be. I think we're kind of realising that these days and learning that a lot at the moment. So Leigh and I said, alright, let's jump on. It's meant to be 21st episode, and here we are. So what's been going on, Leigh, in the last few weeks? We haven't even really caught up properly.
How long have we got? I think for me, it's just been a big shift, emotional shift, really. Like I was talking about in the solo cast, I think our solo cast was pretty powerful, really.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of, we were a little bit sort of wary of doing it, but breaking the mold of what we were doing. But I think it was powerful, actually, just to sit there and talk on our own to ourselves, to no one, just let it go. And yeah, for me, it's just massive, like, emotional shifts at the minute. And I think, there's a big theme in 2022 for that. There's a big planetary shift. Apparently all the planets are moving all at the same time at the moment. So
there's something happening.
There's definitely something happening.
There's something going on.
There's been, I don't want to play into the victim, but yeah, it's been coming to me at fucking all angles.
Yeah.
This
same.
last, it's probably intensified in the last month, but yeah, this year it's been coming in at all angles, and that's fine. That's good.
Yeah.
It's good. There's work. It just keeps reminding me that there's work to be done, always. And probably the last 3 or 4 days has been the most profound for me. I just finished, not the most, maybe the most profound. The Cohen Ray stuff's been fucking brilliant for me, really. I'm swearing a bit, maybe I have to. That was really good. I think that kick-started the safe space. I can't remember, I was telling someone about it, and I think it's the first time in a long time I've actually felt a real safe space to just do this work again. Losing touch with, we were talking about this earlier off camera, I don't know when I lost touch with finding that crowd and those safe spaces, but I lost it somewhere along the way. And coming back to it now, I think that kicked off everything. I've just finished off a 3-day retreat with some Buddhist monks near me, a local Buddhist temple. That's been really, really beautiful experience, as you can imagine. Buddhist monks are beautiful people, but their outlook on life is just, it's another level, something that you don't experience that often. So I need to make sure that I touch base with them, and then finish that whole kind of 3 or 4 day cycle off it with the full moon, and did a cacao ceremony with a company called Sacred Cacao, and they ran a full moon ceremony near me where I live, out in Jellybrand, and it was great. It was almost solidifying what I'd been working on in the 3 days previous, but it was about assessing the last moon cycle and seeing what how you'd led yourself and what you want to let go of and what you want to bring in and how you want to be moving forward. So that couldn't have come at a better time. I don't think it really all just come at a really good time. So yeah, what about you, man? What's been going on?
Yeah, I think for me it's been a big shift as well. Even since my solo cast, there's been a lot going on. Something that's kind of coming up for me a lot at the moment is authentic expression, like really expressing how I'm feeling in the moment, even if it's undesirable, as one may say. But a lack of expression leads to suppression, and the suppression leads to a depression. And it's good to be able to detach and like kind of look at that from a different angle in myself. So I've just been observing myself, my own behaviour, getting some help with it as well, which has been really great in terms of actually giving me understanding. My brain is the type of brain that needs understanding, like in logic, to make sense of things for me. Otherwise, I just find it difficult. Like I almost, the science helps, you know.
Yeah.
Like when you give it scientific meaning, it does kind of help. And a lot of the stuff that, you know, if there's a lot of barbers and hairdressers listening to this, which I'm presuming there is, it could be new. Like this could be new information. People haven't really heard anyone speaking about this, because it's all about the material stuff and the material world, and that's what's placed in front of us. When you open Instagram, you don't hear people talking about this unless you consciously make a decision to follow people who are. This stuff doesn't get the sponsored ads, you know, like the algorithm doesn't put this stuff in front of you because it doesn't make the algorithm money. So
and it wouldn't make money, and something I kind of discovered even over the last 3 days with the monks, you know. Isn't it funny how without any kind of like hardship, there's nothing to be done, like there's no work to be done. So they say, they have this thing with like, if there was no suffering, there would be no work to be done. It's kind of like social media is kind of the same. Without any kind of trickery, there's no money to be made. You know, if they can't pull the wool over your eyes somehow, there's no money to be made. You know, it's
I know,
and that's why this well, you know, a lot of this kind of talk isn't as popular as someone telling you look better wearing something or having a new haircut or something like that.
I know, or wearing the latest drop of whatever sneaker just came out.
Yeah.
It's like you're just forever chasing that.
I got some new sneakers actually.
Did you?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
But
still wearing them.
But it's true. It's like,
would you believe it?
It's mad. I do believe it because I see it. I see.
You're a wreck.
You don't have
You're
to.
a mess.
You don't have to fucking convince me, bro. I know. I can see it, but I admire it, and I think, you know, I was saying it to Hannah the other, like I think I was even saying it to her this morning. That kind of stuff has really kind of driven my growth. It started on a small level where it was detaching from them types of things, and you guys in the podcast would have heard me talking about this before when Naz was on and stuff, but that's what actually kick-started the deeper growth for me, I think. It was eliminating the noise, you know, taking the fucking noise out of it, because all of that stuff is just distraction and noise. Pulling like a certain pair of clothes on to make yourself feel better. But like, what about when you're naked, you know what I mean? What about when you're wearing no clothes? How do you feel then?
I feel great.
Yeah.
I love it. Walk out my backyard naked sometimes.
Yeah. I walk around the house naked all the time.
It's bloody brilliant.
But it's like that, even like, but that's what I mean. It's like we, at our core, getting back to like the core happiness type stuff, you know, like what are we doing right now? Like, are we? And another big thing that's been coming up for me recently, just to kind of go off while it's on my mind. This whole podcast really is all about intuitive planning. I think we
literally didn't plan this at all, so we're just going off top.
I think our flow kind of got a bit disrupted by what happened, you know, and that's fine. Like, it can be, that's just life, you know what I mean? You have to be able to adapt in certain situations, but the result of that means that you guys today listening to this podcast get a more raw and honest version of Leigh and Eoin than you've probably heard in a while. You get the Buddhist version. You get the peaceful version of us right now. But yeah, it's like I've spent a lot of time lately just reflecting on the direction that I'm going in, if it is aligned, if this whole identity that I've created for myself is actually who I am at my core. And I think at a certain point in life, you know, the world kind of scoops us in and sweeps us into its fucking machine. It says, oh, you're a barber now, and you're an educator, and you're all this, these fucking titles and these things. But like, what about, you know, I go back to the child, I go back to the inner child, and I think about how I was before I started conditioning myself and the world started conditioning me to be a certain way. And I'm almost rediscovering that now. And it just makes me show up authentically as myself because I don't feel I have anything to prove. And it's just making me feel very weird. I was saying to the guys earlier, to Leigh and to Brandon, you know, it's funny, like I'm the best person ever at giving people advice. Like people will ask, like multiple times over the last few weeks. I remember I was saying something to you before I went for dinner one night with Hannah, and I gave you this piece of advice, and I was like, it kind of like did something in my brain where I was like, why can't I just think like that? You know, I can. But it's not about the thinking, it's about the feeling. And what I'm learning in the work that I'm doing at the moment is it's like you can't think your way out of it. You have to feel your way out of it. You have to feel your way out of it, like in a way of like you have to do the work on the body as well as the mind. It can't just be one. You can't just do the mindset stuff because the feelings are stored in the body, and like that's where it comes from. And when them two things kind of free up, it does help. But yeah, I'm really great at giving other people advice, and I don't take advice myself, and that leads me then to thinking some of the stuff that, you know, I might be putting out is like hypocritical. I'm always getting to the point where like, yeah, I just want to be fully authentically myself and say whatever the fuck I want and not feel any repercussions for it. Like right now I don't care, like I don't care, I just want to say whatever like I feel like saying.
Well, that you would have heard me talk about this a lot, but I just releasing that judgment from myself over the last, like this has been a theme of my life for the last bloody 6 months or something, I think. Yeah, since like November last year, and I feel like I've finally done it. It's taken me a minute, but I've kept it at the surface, you know, chipping away, and life has given me different events and circumstances to work through that, and that's been the work. And yeah, I think a lot of the reason why you wouldn't say what you want to say is because you feel like you're being judged. Yeah, and that's why I would never say what I wanted to say, because I feel like I'm being judged. And that comes back to personality trait, you know, people pleaser, and then high achiever, people pleaser. And why was that? Because it was too unsafe as a kid to be any other way. Just unfortunately how it was. And like, that doesn't mean it was wrong. It just means that that's a limitation that we've noticed, and we've just got to work through it. And I think that's what it is. And
then like working within the confinements of the world and what the world has created for us, I think that also comes into it as well as that, to like add a layer on top of that. It's like, well, yeah, like the world, like us, the way we share our stuff on social media and stuff, like everyone tries to follow the algorithm, you know, so that they get the gratification of the likes and the this and the that. And yeah, judgment aside, it's like I still find myself inauthentically expressing who I am in certain regards, not on a big level. I would say, you know, if you were to look at it in the grand scheme of things, I would still say we're pretty good at expressing how we are. Like, you know, the podcast has been a great help for that, but I'm talking like, you know, we're very particular with like percent, like, you know, we want it to be like 100%. You know what I mean? But then that's the world that we're living in. It's like, just by going completely to the other end of the scale and not partaking in what works in a business standpoint doesn't make sense either, because then we go hungry. We don't make any money. Yeah. And that's what I'm struggling with at the moment.
Well, it gets hard. Like, how do you get to the really point? Hard. I mean, what do? You know, unfortunately, the world needs money to go around, and it's just the world we've created for ourselves. Like, not us, but just humans in general. That's what we've done, and we've let it go that way. But yeah, I'm really trying to work on that peace of mind, that the present moment's just fine. Also, you know, something that I learned over the last sort of at the retreat was like that, you know, suffering can come from chasing something. You know, if you're constantly chasing something and you don't get it, suffering, you know, because you're thinking that what you are and have right now isn't okay, and you just got to keep chasing something else. It's kind of like that no mind or that aimlessness they talk about in Buddhism. It's like, that's also fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Aimlessness
well,
is
of your
fine.
journey. It's all part of like
Yeah.
where you're actually aiming, like not aiming, but like where you're being guided to. I think like take the aiming out of it, like it's just where are you being guided to, and you know, the higher consciousness of the world, whether you believe in God or not, there's something fucking going on here, like where there's a higher consciousness. And I was saying this to you the other day, the consciousness knows everything and it acts accordingly.
100%.
Like the energy that we're putting out, even from our thoughts, like that, like it's the same thing. I had an interesting thing about affirmations actually come up for me the other day. Remember we listened to Peter Cronin, he was saying about affirmations, and he was saying, he doesn't like affirmations because there's the assumption that something's wrong, when it's actually, there's nothing wrong, you're perfect how you are. But that was a definition that I was putting on affirmations. But in the book that I'm listening to at the moment, I'm listening to this audiobook. I've never listened to an audiobook before. It's the first time I've ever listened to one. But the lady was talking about how affirmations can actually send a message to the universe. And you can use that in a manifestation type of way. And I believe in that. Not like in a say like, oh, I am perfect, I am beautiful, you know, like them, not in that kind of way, but like I started like over the last kind of week or so, we haven't been in the salon because it's been renovated and it's been fucking great, because we actually able to live life on our terms, and we did take some time off to like to do that. And I've been journaling in the morning and just writing things down, and then like the last 3-4 days in particular, I started like writing affirmations down and then speaking them out loud, and saying things like, there's loads of money in the world, there's so much money, like there's so much money, there's so many clients, we're so in demand, like all of these things. And I don't know if it's because people are back at work after Easter, but like it seems to just come to you, like things have came to me, like that I thought, well, how am I going to solve this problem, right? I have a problem, I want to solve it, I need this amount of money, how am I going to get it? I don't know. All of a sudden, boom, it just shows up, because maybe it's to do with affirmations, maybe it's not, but it's interesting.
Mel Robbins spoke about that on Stephen's podcast. He's speaking about affirmations, and she said the thing with affirmations is it's interesting. You got to believe it. You can't just speak things that you don't believe, because energetically they can get a bit crossed. So it's very powerful if you speak a thing and you just believe it. That's when people are like, oh, I am beautiful, I am this, I am that, I am that. It's like, well, if you don't believe it, you're just saying words. You're literally just saying words. But you got to bring yourself to a point of like, all right, I'm believing this now. Like, this is it now.
100%. 100%. And them types of affirmations are true. You know, I'm not saying like, you know, things that are just silly. Some people will be saying, I'm a multi-millionaire, I'm a celebrity, or you know, like they wouldn't be saying things like that. But it's more like there is plenty of clients, there is plenty of money, there's more money in circulation than ever before. But like, absolutely, because again, the consciousness knows everything.
Exactly.
It knows if you don't believe it. Exactly. Because it's internal. Your internal dialogue is a reflection of your outer world. 100%. Like what's going on inside, it comes out, like, and it almost displays in front of you like it's a TV. And
it's like, if you don't believe it, you won't embody it. So the thing about believing it is you all of a sudden start to embody it. That you believe it. You know, you're like, yep, okay, whatever the affirmation is, and you embody it. And that's how, because I used to do a lot of work on the laws of attraction, you know, The Secret, and I had like the Secret book, and then I had the audio, the CD and all that kind of stuff, and they were saying, you know, you got to believe it. You can't be saying stuff that you don't believe in or is negative, because the universe can't differentiate between the two. You have to believe it, and that's how you attract the things. That's how the law of attraction works, because you start to believe it and you start to move like that. You embody it, and it's coming to me, because you believed it and the universe delivered. Like that's basically the most powerful way to use an affirmation.
And there can be like, I don't know, what would be the opposite of an affirmation? What would be a word that describes the opposite of an affirmation? I guess it's still an affirmation, but just in a different context. Like if people are affirming negative things to themselves, the same shows itself
they'll
up.
come true too. I think we relate affirmations to positive, you know, for the good, for the things that we want, the things that are going to benefit us. But you can do it for negative too. If you believe, if you want to say out a negative thing, because the universe will also hear that as well, and deliver you that.
Yeah,
that's going by, you know, the laws of attraction, by The Secret. So very interesting.
Yeah,
really.
I think we can imprison ourselves in many respects.
Yep.
We imprison ourselves. We create, like what you've been saying all week.
We literally create our own suffering. We do.
Yeah, 100%.
We really do.
Even down to a thought level.
Yeah.
And like have you heard of ants? That saying ants, like automatic negative thoughts.
No.
Like that's just what people go to. And
Yeah.
It comes from conditioning. It comes from childhood.
Yeah.
What you're listening to growing up, you know.
Yeah, I heard it on a podcast the other day. Apparently, though, that is actually hardwired into us as a survival mechanism, to think negatively before positively, because it's a survival thing. If you're constantly thinking that everything's fine, you might
just wander into it.
Yeah, you just literally wander into it. But I kind of like that. It's the thing. I've said it on a different podcast, and I can't remember who I heard it from. But there's two types of people in the world. There's the person running from the lion because they're scared, and there's the person running towards it for a hug. Like there's two types of people, and you know, sometimes you got to look at our minds. Do they the kind of the primal ways that we've developed, like the Neanderthal mind, does it still serve us in the world that we've created? We've created such a world of comfort, and do we still need to be so negative and so scared? Everything's bloody done for us. Everything's taken care of, you know.
Yeah.
And Paul Chek talks about this. He was like, you know, he says people email him all the time in like what they see as times of crisis, and he says half the time, or most of the time, it's actually not true. He was like, do you have a roof over your head? Yes. Do you have running water? Yes. Do you have this? Yes. He was like, we're not in a crisis then. He was like, you know, it's just something that, you know, you conditioned to, you're trying to work through. So
yeah, I think it's understanding the difference between what we are, like what we actually are, in terms of like we're animals, like we're just animals.
Yep.
We're a form of an animal.
Yep.
Versus what we think we are.
Yep.
Like,
I think exactly. And if there's anything that I've ever learned, over the last few days, it was exactly that. You know, we like to think we are more than we are.
Yeah, because I've connected. I almost feel like I've connected back to source a little bit, and I've give less of a fuck now than I ever have about a lot of things. Yep. To the point where it's making me actually think about everything. Yeah. Like
everything.
Yeah,
but like I was saying on the solo cast that I did, and something that I said to you about, you know, this whole personal development thing, like we've got somewhere to go. It's almost the other way. You know, we almost need to strip back to be a baby. Like, you can learn so much from kids with just their freedom. You know, they're free. They express. Isn't that what we're trying to do? We're trying to feel safe enough to express. The reason they feel safe enough is two reasons. Their rational thought hasn't developed yet, so they haven't got any bias, and they also haven't got the accumulation of stories that we've been told. You know, the older you get up, is it up until about 7 years of age, your developmental psychology, the stories that you're told in that time are so important, important, and like babies haven't got that yet, because obviously they've been around a short amount of time.
So it's interesting. The lady I'm doing the work with, she said something to me about like my childhood and like me being a baby, and I said something about like what happened with my parents' relationship, and then she was like, I was like, oh, but I can't remember that far back. She's like, yeah, but your body does. That is why I said, and I don't know if I heard it from you, but like the head knows it's silly, the logic knows it's silly, but the heart doesn't. The subconscious, because the heart learned it when I was, before I can remember. Yeah, my heart's been there since the day I was born. Or that's before that gets stored then in the nervous system. Yep. And the nervous system controls all of our behavior. Something, talking about being a kid, I've just remembered this now, something that made me cry on the weekend at the cacao ceremony. Shout out to the Stivka Cold and Conscious. He did an amazing breathwork ceremony which sent me to another planet.
Thank you. I'm still in pain. But
he's got a big red mark on his back.
Yeah, where I released something in my arms. I lost control.
So for those of you who think breathwork is all a load of bollocks, I would give it a go,
because I can talk a little bit more about it in a second. But while it's on my mind, he did this really interesting thing, and I was like, I wondered why I wasn't crying yet, because he spoke a lot. There was a massive release, and this just proved to me how how powerful it is, the stories that you tell yourself as a kid. He said, imagine yourself, your young self, the child, sitting in front. After we did the breathwork session, we're all emotional, and he said, imagine you're looking at him, you're looking at you, you're sitting in front of him, and he's saying to you, I'm so proud of you, and so well done, like, congratulations where you're at. And I just fucking burst into tears. I was like, because wow, like, imagine that young me is saying, like,
when you bring yourself back there, though, it's like you almost forget about them years.
Yeah.
Like when you bring yourself back there and you picture yourself as a kid again.
Because it's a weird paradox that happens, because the knowledge I now have, I think that's why it made me cry. It wouldn't have made everybody cry, but the knowledge I now have, the picture of me, say 3, 4, 5 years old, the image I have in my head is of me. I would say I'll be around 5 years old, but I already know the stories that were in my head then. So for that kid to say he's so proud of me now is like, it's like, holy shit, I know the stories you've already been told. I already know because I've been you.
Yeah.
It's heavy, but to get that, like, that kind of confirmation was mad. I've never done that before. I've never, like, flipped myself back to a kid and just looked at myself now and just been like, yeah, proud of you, man. Like,
I went through that at Mastermind, where they brought me back to that. It's like, what did that kid need at that particular time? And I think, for us, both of us, being so far from where we grew up, you almost come to Australia and you create this different life for yourself where you're not constantly reminded of who you are. And I actually think it helps you in finding who you are, getting away from like where you've been conditioned. Because if I was constantly around in my hometown of Fermoy and I was seeing the people I always saw and I was always seeing the same streets, the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is our protector, like it's kind of like the lighthouse of the brain, would just be shutting down all the emotions. It's just suppressing.
Well, you're back in the piss pool as well, as I like to say in Nissi and K2. Like, you're back in the piss pool, and like it's that cell memory. It's very hard to break that when you're always around it. Yeah. If you don't take a break from it, it's like people always. I literally had this conversation last night. I went around to visit some old friends, and their parents are there, and they looked after me a lot when I first come to Australia, and they were like, do you think I told them this at the whole spiel of the last like month or so, and I knew they'd understand, and they were like, do you think you'd be like this if you stayed in the UK? And no, absolutely not, because I wouldn't have had a chance to get away from it. I wouldn't have had those prolonged period of times where I was detached for long enough to actually do the work,
Yeah, and it's like being away from your comfortable environment where the protectors are all set up for you, like where you've developed those protectors.
Your safety nets are all there,
Yeah. It's interesting.
But yeah, I feel like that probably was interesting. Me and Brandon were having a little chat about relationships earlier, and that's probably one of the reasons why I got out of my previous relationship, is because, again, it was like, I don't know how I could have progressed on as a person in that environment, because I couldn't take a long enough break. That sounds bad, but like I couldn't get away from the trigger loop for long enough to actually work on the problem that I had, or the barrier that I had. So yeah, I guess there was a point we both and we were both in a similar position where we couldn't break the cycle of the emotional loop that we were in. So yeah, you just have to break it, and that rings true. It's like same with family, like just so something that I didn't preface, or something I want to touch on about my solo cast, is like, those types of talks, if you haven't done the work yourself, can be taken the wrong way. And what I needed to preface is like everything that we talk about, it doesn't mean it's wrong. We're not saying it's wrong, and we're not saying it shouldn't have happened, and we're not saying, you know, anything like that, like no one's perfect or anybody fucked up. It's just us, again, being the observers of our lives, and you know, the way we were parented was perfect for the way that it was, with the tools that they had in that moment in time. Couldn't have been any other way. Classic Peter Crone, couldn't have been any other way, because if it was, it would have been. But that doesn't mean, so as equally as that was them doing the best with the tools that they had at that moment in time, this is now us doing the best with the tools that we have at this moment in time. And the tools that we have and the awareness that we have allow us to realize our limitations. And this is just us moving forward, and us being in a point of like leadership and being examples, trying to, you know, we talk about this all the time, showing up as the examples. Well, we need to do that work, and unfortunately that makes, you know, for some hard truths, and it's hard for a lot of people to hear, but I think the preface on all of this is none of it is wrong, because again, like right back to what we said at the start, without any kind of suffering or limitation or obstruction, there's no work to be done. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to be done. We're just living in a world of bliss.
Well, like it's like anything, right? You put, if you go into the gym, like we're okay with certain types of suffering, you know. You go to the gym and you do your workouts to build muscle, and that causes pain. We're all right with that. But like emotional suffering, nah, can't have that. But it's like, it's changing the narrative on it. It's like, how beautiful is it to have the awareness that we have? Like, it's perfect. Like, everything happened to us in our lives for a reason, so that we now have, at fucking 28 and like 30 years old, that we have this awareness. Well, that's and how we can make some changes. Like, this how is fucking beautiful is that? Thank you. Like, thank you. Like,
and that was you reframed it beautifully, you know, to me the other day that way. You know, that's the kind of way I thought as well, but that I thought I was being selfish in that way. I was like, well, it could have been received as like, wow, like, nice one, Leigh. That takes a lot of awareness, and well done for being so vulnerable, and like, shit, you've doing, you know, that's a lot for a male at your age to be doing that. And yeah, maybe that's just a selfish way of looking at it, but I think, you know, if anyone takes anything from that, try and be that person, you know.
We haven't been around an awful long time though, as humans.
No.
Like at a certain point, like we just happen to be in a very interesting time, our generation.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing a lot of big shifts happening between, like, is the technology taking over? We're not quite cavemen either. Like, we're lost.
We're lost, and we're so disconnected. Like Paul Chek talks about the double reality as well, the dangers of living in a double reality. He talks about the digital world, how the digital world is just a replica of the real world, the energetic space, the tangible space that we live in, which is this real world, the air that we breathe, the shapes that we see, you know, the people that we come into contact with energetically. Through screens, you don't get that. You just it's a rendition of this world. It's trying to mimic this world, and if you live in that world too long, he's like, that's when we start to see, you know, the degeneration of the human, the stress, the anxiety, the depression, because you're not getting fundamentally what it means to be a human. You're just not, you know, and then you're not outside as much. You're not in touch with nature as much, and you're not getting fresh air as much, and light in your eyeballs as much, and on your skin, and then it just goes on and on and on and on and on.
Isn't it mad that how much we've been conditioned, that people believe that like all of the holistic practices and somatic healing work, and they all see it as like woo woo, and it, like, as if like, how could that work?
Yeah, no, I was listening again. I know I reference him a lot, but Paul Chek was saying about like in Western medicine, allopathic medicine, you apparently before you become qualified, you have to swear an oath, and the oath is to do no harm. In the Western medicine, oath is to I swear to do no harm, and he was like, well, that's not the practice. That's a complete contradiction, because we're not, you know, they're not, and that's where I have a problem, because I'm like, well, you know, holistic health and, you know, all these healing modalities, they're the least harmful things you could ever do. You just use every natural thing you have, and not much of it does much harm to you. you know. And there are cases obviously where someone put it to me beautifully. I think it was on Aubrey Marcus' podcast. He said it in a way of like, Western medicine is great for acute scenarios. So if you're like in, you know, you just had a car crash and your bloody arm's falling off, oh, guess what? They can sew it back on.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a heart attack. Guess what? They can take one out and put someone else's heart in. Brilliant. Acute scenario is great. But he said, do they know how to keep the heart healthy in the first place? No.
It's symptom management.
There you go. Band-aiding over it. And
it's symptom management.
And like that's where the holistic world is so powerful. I think we just the both need to come together a little bit more.
It's like, how can we solve the problem before it starts? Like, how can we just prevent it from... It's prevention rather than cure. But you see, cure is built to make money. So that's where that came from. But honestly, like, it's the same thing on an emotional scale. You know, like... Symptom management.
Well, that's where, you know, the material world that you live in. The material world is the symptom management for your emotions. Distraction. You know, how do you cover the emotional symptom? Distract it. The quickest and easiest way to manage a emotion is to distract it. Straight away.
Just
cover it up. Put a band-aid on it. Put a band-aid and do it again and again.
Just put a pretty painting over it. You know, like that's the lady I'm working with at the moment. She's saying that you got to look at your emotions like they're a house. You know, you got rooms in your house, and like certain things have happened in the rooms. There's damage on the walls, but what's good is it just putting a pretty painting over the top of the wall? Symptom management again. You need to actually solve the fucking issue. Like, get to the core of it and rip it out and work through it in that regard. And you know, that's cool. That's so fucking cool. When you get past the point of like all of the glittery stuff, I think it takes something to resonate with you so hard that the pain of staying the same is worse than making the change. You know, something really has to hit you like a fucking truck. You know. Well,
yeah. I mean, I'm a perfect example of that. I mean, how many bloody more awards do you want to win? How much more career success do you want to have? You know what I mean?
I'm going to put it out there now on this podcast. I don't think I'm at the stage now. I might change my mind. I don't think I'm going to ever enter an individual award again. I can enter it as a business, and from a business standpoint, but I don't think I ever will, because I just don't think I want to. I'll leave it there. I could go a lot further. I could say more, but I'll leave it there.
It's funny you say that as well, because it's something I've been toying with a lot over the last, say maybe 4 years. Because remember Danny used to work with us, and he was big. He was like, "Nah, I don't do the comps anymore. At the time, I was like studying a lot of like Ayurveda, you know, the yogic sort of medicinal thing that I was talking about, and for my kind of dosha, which is Pitta, which is fire type, they say, be careful with competition. You should steer away from competition because it throws you out of balance. But I'm the most competitive bastard in the world. Like, I've always been like it in my life. And I mean, I think
what do you think it's for? Like, you know, what do you think it's?
Oh, people pleaser. You can just reverse engineer it. So like, high achiever, people pleaser.
Yeah,
it's almost. Do you know what? I might go and see someone. I reckon it's borderline ADHD.
No, we're fucking very much the same.
I reckon it's borderline ADHD. Gabor Mate explains it beautifully. He's like, if it's unsafe, and this is when Kerwin said it, and it's just smacked me in the face so hard. That was what I got from that weekend when you were having an exorcism. He said like it's
happened. It's true.
It was unsafe at some point for you, or you were only ever of value if you were doing well, or you were a high achiever, or you did the best, or you came first, or you were the strongest, or blah 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 blah. Well, guess what? That was my childhood growing up. You know, I was speaking to my dad on the phone the other night, and he's not in a good way right now. But even then, the conversation, he was like, you know, I've always been strong, haven't I? I'm like, yeah, you have. But that's where his value system lays, and fucking good, because like I'm glad he gave that to me, because you know, it's hard to keep me down, but you know, that comes with that. I know where it comes from, and that's why I'm so bloody competitive, because my value system's built up it, because it was I was seen of most value when I was the best, or doing this or that, or working hard, or that there was no room for the other. And that doesn't mean it was wrong. It just means that I've noticed that as a limitation.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's funny how a 5,000-year-old medicinal practice knew that eons before me. You know, like, and can't be wrong.
I've made a very similar observation about myself recently. And we're so good at telling ourselves stories about things to kind of cover up the reality of what it actually is at its core. And you could put me in a bracket of overachiever. You could put me in a bracket of highly successful in everything that I've ever done. But where did that start? It didn't start for me until I was kind of like, it wasn't like I was always that way from a baby growing up. I was never like top of the class in sports there or anything like that. I've had to try to be this way. And me being an overachiever is a symptom of a lack of self-worth from me being younger and looking for validation from a particular person. And I wanted to just be accepted. And that was my way of feeling. It's like, it's a symptom. My achieving that, and now I've realized that the understanding is the first step to acceptance and recovery and healing from that. Now that I understand it on such a deep level, like, you know, it's come out in them ways, like that's the symptom. Now I don't really feel the need to do it anymore.
It's beautiful.
So like, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's why I'm saying that about competition work, because it's like, I don't need the validation anymore.
Who you prove it?
Exactly. Who am I proving it to?
Who are you proving it to?
You know, having a conversation like this, where you're actually getting to the core of shit, and like, you know, shout out to everyone who has wrote to us and given us some great feedback on the podcast, and how, you know, if we feel like we can help other people by sharing our truths and the things that are coming up for us in this moment, that's way more powerful than winning Men's Hairdresser of the Year. I don't give a fuck about Men's Hairdresser of the Year. Do you think I care? I was sitting at the last awards with Leigh. We were sitting there, and honestly, I just didn't enjoy myself. I'll put it out there. Didn't enjoy it. I was sitting there, I was like, I don't really want to be here. And like, it sounds bad saying it, and that's not me coming from a place of not being grateful to be there. I'm very grateful to be there. I'm overjoyed with gratitude for being there. I think it's fantastic. But for me to like continuously bring joyous situations into my life, I want more connection than that. I want more connection. I want more authenticity. I want more real life. Just let's have a fucking good conversation. Yeah. And forget about time, and, you know, I don't know.
No, I really Joe, with what you're saying there, and like something for me, because Jack really helped me with this. Jack Morton, who's managing director of the Fame team this year, sitting down with him and seeing, you know, his insights into the collections, and I realized where I was going a little bit wrong and where I can be getting in my own way. And if I do a collection again, it's going to be an artistic expression. That's it. I'm not even going to tie a message to it, and I think that's where I went wrong last time, because for me to fully enjoy that moment and not be in competition at all with anybody, it just has to be an artistic expression. Then I've got to decide, is that how I want to express my art? Is that how I want to do it? Probably not. I like music more than that. I'd rather just go sit down, play the guitar, play the drums or something. I like doing that, you know. The reason why I say right now why I wouldn't even tie a message to it is because, again, I feel like deep that there'd be a bias in me that I'd feel like my message has to be right. And again, that's competition, and I have to win that message, and everybody has to agree with me. And if they don't, I'll create more suffering for myself. I'll be like, oh, why don't they agree with me? Oh, nothing changes it. And then I had this moment, like this out of body experience. I was helping someone else with this year, someone who's entering the AHIAs. I won't put the name out there, but and they were talking about the message that they were tying to their collection and doing this and doing that, and I thought, I've done this before. I've put in this exact same message out there, and it didn't work. So is this how we change things, by putting messages into competition collections? I don't think we do. I think this is how we do it. Real human connection. I don't know how, and that was really powerful when Jack kind of gave me a new outlook on the hair collections as an artistic expression, and that for me was something I never realized, because I don't have an art background. He does. And he was like, and that's how I see it now. I don't tie my self-worth or my value or how good I can cut hair. I couldn't give a shit how good I can cut hair anymore, to be honest, because like I say, how many more bloody trophies do you need to win, you know? Even a client jumping, like, it sounds horrible, but even a client jumping out of the chair saying, oh, it's the best haircut ever, I actually don't care, because the gauge of what's good is only as the metrics in that time, and whoever put those metrics together, and are they right or wrong, who knows? I don't know. In
another 5 years it might not be any.
It's going to change again, because I tell you now that the trophies I won 10 years ago, well, apparently the haircuts I did were the best then, and I look up now and I think, God, they were shit. So it's always going to change. You're only as good as the metrics that are developed in that moment in time, and that's somebody's opinion. And if you want to strive for that, then you could create suffering if you don't get there. But anyway, that's getting deep. But look, I mean, I'm going to do collections if I feel drawn that I need to express something artistically, but is that the way I need to express my artwork anymore? Maybe not. I don't know.
It's interesting. I think the reason I say that as well is because I currently don't have the space in my life to fit
and that's fine.
Like, I don't have the space and a mental capacity, mentally and emotionally, and it's in every way. Physically, I just don't have the space to even think about that stuff right now. So that's probably why I'm saying it in that way.
But it excites me in a way, because I'm like, I wonder what it would happen if I just seen it as a creative expression.
If we start putting so much weight on it.
Yeah, I might create
probably
something that
free
would
something up, and it would probably win. That's
and I might blow my own mind. I might be like, that's fucking cool, isn't it? You know. Whereas like, if I'm trying to make it win and do this, I don't know. It could be interesting, but I'm not totally against the idea of it. I just, I'm probably done with the days of like competing for competing's sake, to be like, I'm the best, because who cares, you know?
And you know what? Like, it's kind of, it might sound a bit big-headed saying it, but we've kind of done that. You know, we've done it. Like, we've felt it.
We felt it and definitely been there and done it, you know, playing to the metrics at the time, and that's fine.
Like, how helpful is it? How helpful is it for us to stay there and stay doing that? Because how many more times do we need to be validated in that way? Now for me, it's about, okay, like, how do we create more authentic connections? That's how it is for me. How do we give more people opportunities to come to these realizations themselves? Like we're going to do at Hair Festival, you know, we're going to put together, this is actually exclusive news, but we're going to put together, we're doing the Barber Hub at Hair Festival. We're doing it in support of the Jack Reed Foundation, and what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 cutting stations there for the whole weekend, but we're going to give the next generation of up and coming barbers, or people who just would like their work to be on a platform, or want to try out education, or want to just explore it, give it a crack, see if they like presenting their work, seeing if they like helping other people, and put them on instead of us. You know, like, you can see us cutting hair all you want. You go to the network, you can watch us cutting hair. People have seen us at expos before. Yeah, we'll probably do a haircut, like, but to me it's more important to put other people on and build a fucking tribe. When did we start becoming so individual and so competition driven? Even the metrics of the internet, like Instagram is such a competition thing. It's like
the algorithm itself's like a competition.
Everyone's like, I want to like race to get as many followers as possible. You know, I've seen it in plain day in front of my eyes. People change their opinion and judgment of me based on how many followers I have. They'll look at my follower count, and then they'll look back at me again, and they'll act differently to the way they did before. And I don't even have a lot of followers, so it's like,
compared to, you know, some people you do, and it's like, I what I see as well is like, this is the interesting thing that happens with social media. People will do anything they can to win that race. Anything. Like, they'll even
the word followers is just like, it's assuming you're some sort of god. It's giving you this like higher power feeling.
You're the hierarchy.
Like, it's assuming you're some sort of god, like, you know. It's an endless way. It's like, I've got fucking followers. Like, I've got, like, it's like there's people like 16,000 people kneeling down in front of me. No, like not at all.
No.
I would say these are the metrics that we're playing in though, and how now can we make it better. So like for me going on there, you guys have probably seen it now. If you're listening to this, you've probably found it through Instagram. So it's a good way of connection and getting our message out there. But like the titles that we're putting up with the quotes on them, that's the kind of shit that we need to be talking about.
100%.
Because that's getting back to source. That's getting back to authentic expression. That's creating deeper connection. And I don't care. Like, I don't care to have thousands and thousands of people.
No.
I value my close circle, the people who are around me.
We're only designed to be around like 150 people, aren't we?
Oh fuck,
150 relationships.
Wow.
I think that's why. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but it's not really in the grand scheme. Like
right now, I barely want 5.
Yeah, I know.
But then I want to give myself space to allow more in.
Yeah.
Because right now we're just so oversaturated with relationships that are meaningless relationships.
Yeah.
I want more meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
You know, like people who really genuinely just can connect on a level. Like,
it's hard to find because, you know, we've got generations who've been led by social media now. You know, they've grown up around it and through it, and there's just that hierarchy, competition, judgment. Like,
you know what's very interesting to actually observe is like our parents' generation and how they've been sucked into it as well, because they grew up so different.
Yep.
And now they're nearly as bad on the phones as we are.
Terrible.
You know, and as bad as kids. It's like how they've been also sucked into that vortex, because we call it the vortex, you know.
Yeah.
You get sucked in. You know, even the sound of scrolling triggers me now. You know, when you hear all the videos going off one by one, triggers me.
Yeah.
I just can't deal with it.
No.
I'm like, fuck. I just like being present. Like, I've been practicing presence quite a lot recently. It's hard. It's not an easy practice.
No, it's not.
It's actually not an easy practice. Like,
Leigh
was doing 2-hour meditations. That's fucking hard, man.
Yeah.
Fair play for that. Acknowledging you for that right now.
But I've done a lot of meditation though, so for me it was actually a brilliant experience, but there were a lot of other people in there who were like, that was really hard. And something on that is, this was really cool. Let's segue for a minute. Let's go give the listeners some knowledge. So if anyone meditates, I learned this was really cool, because I've always wondered about this. A lot of people use meditation to get to a place of peace of mind. This is what the monks were teaching me. You know, do you meditate much? Like,
I do in forms of breathwork.
Yeah.
And I've been dedicating weekly time to myself to go and float. And I would consider when I'm floating, that's my form of meditation, because I'm in a pod with all my
sensory deprivation. Yeah. It's interesting, right? So there's a point in meditation where you can get to such a comfortable point. They call it like the void. You go into the void, and you just drift away, like you're just drifting away. And they were like, that's not the point of meditation. There was a guy debating this, and he was like, but isn't that a good thing though? You're just going to, you don't feel anything. And they were like, no, like you just said, you don't actually feel anything. It's an escape. You can get addicted to being in the void. You get stuck in the void. They literally, the monks said that. They were like, you get stuck in the void. And they were like, that's not it. So the byproduct of practicing mindfulness in meditation, coming back to center point, the byproduct is peace of mind.
Yeah.
You're not going there. You're not trying to get peace of mind. The byproduct is peace of mind.
Yeah.
That was crazy, and that teaches you a lot about staying present. And I've got a podcast for you to listen to as well. But that stuff's so good. And something that I literally just heard on a podcast this morning. You know, the future is only built of the present. I'm really trying to I'm really swirling that one around my head right now, because it is the future, and it's like Mo Gawdat's explanation of time. You only have right now. It's the same as what the Buddhist kind of Zen masters say. The future is built of the present. Every moment is the present moment. And they say, I was talking to Brandon about this earlier. You know, the point of coming back to the middle point. You can go into the past and worry about things that you've done, but that creates suffering. You can go to the future and worry and get anxious of what's coming up, but that also creates suffering. And this Zen master says, enjoy the present right now and don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will take care of itself. and that, for me, that's hard for me to embody, because I get so scared of being ignorant. I say this all the time. I don't know where I get that from. I think that's probably something I picked up from when I was a kid as well, being ignorant. But I'm petrified of that.
You know what I really enjoyed over the Easter break was like not having the feeling of like structure or like a time schedule that we're running off. I think that really helped.
Just naturally going with where your energy takes you.
Yeah, just like
you feel drawn
it's like
to.
When did I last do this? And it was probably when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, like probably was when I was just a kid, like in the summer holidays from school, or like. Yeah. Do you know something? Why I think I might have like low level ADHD is because I watched this video on YouTube, and this old dude I might have even been on Instagram, and he was like, there's a because the ADHD mind is like something that keeps jumping from thing to thing to thing. I think that's why we can do so many things, because we're like, yeah, cool, boom, give it that, boom, give it that, boom, give it that. But I do feel like we struggle to do the same thing for too long. We do, in a way. We're trying to do lots of things. Yeah. He was like, but an ADHD mind, he was like, you get out of the shower, you just sit in the bed and you just stare out the window. I can do that. I'll just sit in the bed and be like, this is great. Yeah.
He was like, when you get that moment, I can't remember what he called it. It's almost like a void as well. He was like, just sit there and just enjoy it. He was just stay there.
Stop trying to pull yourself out of it.
Yeah, stop trying to pull yourself out of it. And again, I think is that a moment where I'm just becoming ignorant to the world. And nah, I don't think you are. I think, like we were talking about with Johnny, there's no handbook on what we're supposed to do. We just give ourselves stuff to do. We just make stuff up. We're like, well, we're surviving, so what do we do now?
Yeah.
Let's just cut some hair. What do we do now? Let's just try and be the best at that. Who said you were the best at that? I don't know. This person.
I just want to simplify things, man.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to basics a little bit. You know, like we've created such a complicated world for ourselves, and lives for ourselves. Like I've created such a complicated, complex life for myself that's just full of avoidance. It's full of running, and just
one of more complexities.
Not actually getting to the depths of who I am. And now that I'm doing the work, like I would actually consider what I'm doing as the work now, like on myself and my relationship. And some people will be able to relate to this, but when you get to that point, like fucking hell, the life that you've created before that doesn't really seem to matter as much.
No, it doesn't. No. A really interesting one. We might wrap up soon. It's coming to an hour, but we could talk all bloody day. But something touching back on the judgment piece, like since I think the way I know I've released it really fully is like, this is going to sound bad as well, but I actually don't know why I cut hair anymore. So I believe that there's been a low level of judgment in my mind that I always think, what would my family think? Even though they haven't been around to make for any of the decisions that I've made in the last 10 years, it's almost like an affirmation that has guided me through decisions that I've made. And now that I've released it, because before, even if you come to me a year ago and say, Leigh, you're quitting hair tomorrow, I'll be like, oh, there'd be like this feeling of dread. And not the dread because I don't have a job. It'll be the dread because, what are they going to think? Stop, work comes before everything. This. I've released that from myself now. Now I'm like, why am I doing it now? Honestly, that's my truth right now. Tough pill to swallow, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I think
it's good to look at it in that way and put a question mark over things.
I think I can say it easily as well because I've done it for so long.
Yeah.
Again, I've achieved a lot of the things because there's a while where you can get so caught up in achieving the certain things that you think you need to achieve. Again, because we've just given ourselves something to do. What do we do now? Let's just do a competition.
Yeah.
Let's
100%. And
it's like, what do we do? Oh, let's just do something. All right, let's do this. Let's do a competition. Let's cut hair. That's fine. And yeah, I'm really enjoying the idea of stripping it back. Really enjoying it. And
I think to put more context to that now, like I'm totally with you on that. I feel like I've achieved all I can achieve in a salon context. I think in the context of education, it gives me more purpose.
Yeah.
And in the context of actually helping people and like a deeper kind of connection with people and helping them with their lives through hair, like,
yeah, I think that
gives me purpose.
That statement rings so true. I love it. I absolutely love that statement. Like, and I'm the same. I have to pay attention to the archetype of the helper. I have to. You know, and something that I differentiated, I was chatting to the guys about it off camera, is like not playing into the savior though. Be ready, and you know, keep your tools sharp for when you need them. And something that, you know, I was setting the intentions at the cacao ceremony is trusting. One of the things was, I can't remember if it was the air, you know, we tapped into the air element, and what is one thing that you want to bring in. And for me, it was trusting that the people will find me and the things that I do. Because I don't know if I'm ever going to stop trying to be the savior if I just keep trying to find people that need to be helped. So, yeah, I think that's why education is, the academy is so important to me, is like, yeah, playing into the kind of archetype of the helper, but just showing up as the example. I think that's how I can be the best help. And that's what this is. This is us showing up as the example. We're just literally speaking our truth. Like,
and it's trying to find ourselves out there. I think that's what we need to look for instead of just anyone. It's trying to find people who are on the same page.
Yeah.
Trying to find people who are looking to make the difference or make changes, or who are at a part in their journey where we can influence and help and guide. And like, that's more purposeful, you know. I think that gives us purpose. So yeah, I think like I'm with you there. I'm with you there in terms of I've done all I can do in the salon. How many more fully booked days can I? Like, I actually look around me and I feel like there's so many people I see in the hair industry that aren't living their true potential out because they're just stuck behind the chair. They're just stuck, and there's so many better things that they could be doing in the world to help. But it's like, wow, like, okay, and then that's totally fine too, because then they're comfortable there. And like, that's where maybe they find their purpose. And like, that's a cognitive bias of mine that I need to get over, that I know it's right for them, but it would just be awesome to see them explore it, or to try it, or to see if and like, I need to take that leap myself. You know, I'm coming very close, and I think by the time this podcast comes out, I definitely will. By the time this podcast comes out, I'll be having a break from working in the shop.
I think for me, you know, the way I've tried to rewire it to myself, much like the competition scene, is like, okay, can I see it as an artistic expression? And I just don't even know if I can express art. I don't even know if I want to express art in the form of hair. I feel like our industry's gone in such a way where it's lost its art. I really, really do. And like, all right, you know, the color industry, all right, yeah, the color industry, it can be an artistic expression, but even then it's not, you know, it's a beauty standard. And is that what I want to do for the world? Is that how I think I can help? Not really, because there's layers to that, you know. So yeah, I mean, if I can start to see it as a bit more an artistic expression, then maybe that could help. But if not, yeah, I don't know.
There's a question that comes up for me a lot recently, and just sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
But
it's good.
There's a question that comes up for me a lot recently in everything that I do, and you might see some stuff coming out soon that kind of refers to this. But it's like, what's really going on here? I'm asking myself that about everything right now. What's really going on here? And I had an experience a couple of weeks back before a mastermind where I cut one of the guys from Lux Listings in Sydney. I cut his hair, and about 2 minutes into the haircut, I was like, what's really going on here?
Yep.
And I was doing it so that I could take a picture and put it on Instagram and use it as a bit of clout, so that other people would look at me and think, oh, look at Owen, like, he's doing hair for Lux Listings guys in Sydney and this, and like, what's really going on here? Me looking for more validation And it was in that moment, I just didn't take any photo of the haircut. I took no photos with him because I just wanted to enjoy that experience for what it was, and it was for me. It was like, am I doing this for me or am I doing this for everyone else? So what's really going on here? And I didn't capitalize on taking the photo. I didn't do it because I was just like, what's the point?
And if you did, you could keep yourself in that cycle, you know. You might attract 20 more people that go, oh, I want Owen to cut my hair. Well, is that what you want right now?
But it was in that moment I actually said to myself, I'm not ever reaching out to anybody again with a blue tick to cut their hair for clout. If they come to me, fair enough. Like the other day I had a basketball player message wanting me to do his hair. Couldn't care. Before, years ago, I would have bent over backwards and like went running after him. Of course, building a personal brand, there's a certain part of it that's, you know, built around that. And I was explaining this to Damien, the guy I'm mentoring up in Mackay. So he was asking me about like doing celebrity hair and this and that. And yeah, in terms of building profile and personal brand, to get to the point where we can share what we're sharing now, it makes sense along the way.
And even then, you got to be so careful, though. You know,
100%. Like, who's it for? Like, if you have the consciousness, if you have the consciousness to make it so that it is a business decision, then fair enough. Like, arguably in that moment in Sydney, I should have taken the photo, but that was a real test of. Again, it was almost like a form of like detachment from what I actually want to do in that moment. Like, it's like the conscious and the subconscious. It's like the conscious mind was telling me take the photo, do it for the gram, like, you know, make sure I get them followers up, make sure people see that I'm cutting this guy's hair. But then there's a side of me like where when I really think about the experience that I had, was it a really intrinsically valuable and enjoyable experience? The answer was no. And I didn't. That's the depth that I'm thinking about things these days. I'm not just going to cover things with fucking sprinkles. I say, look how fucking good this cupcake is. You know, it was an average experience. I have that experience with anyone, and I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And then I asked myself in that moment, what's really going on here? And then I just said, I let it free. I just let it free. I said, you know what? Like, just enjoy the experience for what it is. Cut the guy's hair. It is what it is, you know. On you go. And I went on to the fucking most pivotal 3 days probably that I've nearly ever had.
Maybe you needed that. And
then I went from that, right, like, into a room full of people who are just so authentic, like just genuine fucking people, you know. That's been the best thing about the Carbon Ray experience.
Yeah, that's what I was explaining earlier.
It's to elite, like, and all of the people that you would have met at Nissi as well, and it's just real, like, you know what I mean? There's no beating around the bush.
No,
like, there's none of this.
There's no judgment.
Surface stuff. No judgment. Everyone's just coming from a place of love, and yeah, that's kind of like the same message that I now want to spread, you know. And like, that's Carbon's mission, I guess, you know, is to get people.
Or it's just similar at the temple that I was at for the last 3 days. You know, even the monks said, they were like, it's all okay in here, you know. The energy's good, we're all calm, we're all here for the same similar reasons, you know, we're all coming from a place of love, there's no judgment. But like, get back to the real world, that's when the practice starts. You start to practice it then, and it's a shame it has to be that way, but I guess, yeah, that's what we're doing here. Practicing it.
So yeah, we wrap it up. That was 21. That was episode 21.
Thanks for listening to us.
You know what we'd love, like, you know what we'd love, and we don't say it enough, but we'd love some more feedback, you know. We get a lot of private feedback, but, you know, in terms of us being able to actually acquire funding and sponsorship for this podcast, it would be great if you could leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. If you could write us a comment, support it, like the video, whatever. Dislike it if you want, I don't know. Whatever you want to do, just
share it around.
Yeah, share it around, you know. Reach out to us privately if it's a private matter, but like, yeah, the public help really does help. So
yeah, if there's anything you'd like us to talk about as well, that would be cool.
Yeah,
if there's any topics that questions you guys would like us to talk about, or anyone you'd like us to talk to, yeah, that could be really cool as well.
Yeah, the guest that we were going to have on today is going to be great. When we sit down with him, it's going to be fantastic. It's really, really interesting angle that we're coming at there. So thanks for listening. Really appreciate you all. Episode 21. Can you believe it? Coming up to a year soon.
Yep, we've only got 5 more episodes and we'll be a year. We'll have to do something really competitive for the 1 year.
We might run an award. Who's been the best podcaster of the year, me or Leigh? And you guys are going to vote. All right, have a good one, guys.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Ciao.